Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome into Two-Man Game here on CladesOnline.com. I'm Matthew Rocc. That is my co-host, Bob Ramsey. Rammer, how you doing today?
Well, I'm doing well. Honestly, if as I wait for baseball to come around, my basketball season ended last Saturday with St. Louis University women in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I've actually been a little down. But last night's NCAA games picked me back up again. I was able to grind, so it was all good. I was a little depressed, though, not having any games.
Yeah, I get that. That has been unfortunate. There has been some early leakings on Twitter as the transfer portal hits for some SLU news. If you're really begging for it, you can go find it out there. We'll get into that as some things become a little bit more concrete. The games yesterday were absolutely incredible. Obviously, you have Gonzaga making their comeback in their win over UCLA. You have UConn absolutely drubbing Arkansas right off the bat. They now have a margin of win right now above 20 in the NCAA tournament. And then, of course, the Kansas State and Michigan State's absolute stunner. What an incredible game from Marcus Noel. I mean, 19 assists to go with 20 points. We've seen a couple games like that from Yuri Collins, so we know how special that can be. Just an unbelievable night.
Although, let's talk about that game first. Noel's incredible, fantastic player. But like many point guards that have the ball in their hands the whole time, sometimes they make things hard on themselves. And a couple of the shots they took and he tried to orchestrate at the end of regulation, it shouldn't have gone to overtime. And decision-making is incredible. But nobody is perfect. And
you had 2 turnovers,
those decisions late don't mar the fact that they won in overtime. And I'm going to suggest that it might be my favorite play of all time. I don't notice. I'm not sure that I've ever seen it before, but I don't recall. But the fake argument between Noel and Coach Tang that resulted in an alley-oop is one of the most diabolical, evil, clever, brilliant, fun plays I've ever seen.
So I don't think – have we gotten 100% confirmation from either party that it was 100% that it was planned? Is that your theory?
Last night I got on social media right away and called a couple of coach friends, and they go, it looked that way. And I said, well, when legend becomes fact, print the legend. So I was going to go with it. And then I started seeing more and more social media sites and people covering the game said that was a play.
That's what I kind of figured it was because mainly because he rolled so early in the art. Like if you think about the timing of the play, the big man rolled so early in the argument. And so it's like you're supposed to, you're trying to tell me that as soon as Noel threw up the 2, he busted you before he even saw the coach or anything like that. I'm not sure if that's believable.
No, and so again, if somewhere all the participants collude, yes, that's what I'm saying, collude and say, no, that was just a play. I saw him break, blah, 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 and it didn't happen. I'm going to the old thing. By the way, that line about print the legend, that's from the man who shot Liberty Valance, and which has some great journalism points in the Western. It's really good. There's also some patriotic stuff in there. It's a great John Ford, Duke Wayne movie. Anyway, but they at the end they say when fact becomes legend, print the legend.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the legend. And when I'm on my deathbed and you're doing an interview, well, Bob Ramsey, because you'll be old then too. Yeah, when Bob Ramsey, you did Billiken basketball for 63 years. What's the greatest play you ever saw? I go, it's not a Billiken game. It's the fake argument with the coach, alley-oop backdoor. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
All right, fair enough. I can't believe you'll be old too. Sorry, that got me. One of the things I also just thought that UCLA Gonzaga matchup, just because recently their matchups have just been insane, and honestly, it kind of broke my heart because I wanted that that UCLA group, because it still had so many of the guys who went to who went so far. I wanted them to get one, but at the same time, it's been tough seeing Gonzaga get so close every year
Yeah.
and not be able to get over the hump. So to see them make a comeback like that, and then to get a Chris Jenkins essentially from Villanova game-winning shot, essentially the exact same play. I mean, literally, there's some great people who put picture-in-picture of the two shots, and it's literally almost the exact same place on the court where Chris Jenkins from Villanova caught his and put it down. Just an absolutely huge shot. The back and forth of that game, that was absolutely incredible. It's before this tournament started, it really bummed me out because I had Houston and UCLA in the Final Four, and it really bummed me out that I couldn't put those guys as my championship game because I thought that would be a fascinating game, Houston and UCLA, for those exact reasons. And I kind of thought that same way with this matchup between Gonzaga and UCLA, which was whichever team loses, I'm going to be kind of bummed they're out of this tournament and happy the other one's going. Clark Kellogg, we had him on the opening drive earlier today, and he said, and he made a good point that I think is this could be the year Gonzaga finally gets through because that one dominant team isn't really there to kind of take them off the mountaintop. And I think that
is he not aware of Alabama?
That's what a couple other people have said, but hey, that's his call. I'm pretty sure he's aware. I'm pretty sure he's aware of Alabama. But that's a fair point.
I'm a fan. I'm like you. Just purely as a fan. Well, you got to remember, I was a kid when UCLA won the national championship every year. I was a huge fan. I mean, I was a UCLA guy. And then now I'm a mid-major guy, schools with non-football. I know, people say Gonzaga is not a mid-major, whatever. I'm not trying to get into that argument. I'm just saying they don't have football. They're not a land-grant university with football money, okay? That's all I'm saying. Don't everybody get their panties in a wad. Let's have that argument another day. But what they've done as a non-football school over the last 25 years is to the point of shocking. You can't do that, not being a football school. You can't do it, yet they're doing it. And so I'm a huge fan of Mark Few. I'm a huge fan of Gonzaga. I guess it's been 10 years or so now. St. Louis U, we played there. Got our butts kicked, as you would expect. But they were great hosts. It's a cool gym and campus. Spokane's a really cool town. I root for Gonzaga. Now, getting into yesterday's game, I know UCLA was missing some key players, especially a big. How do you get doubled on rebounding? They made a choice. Mick Cronin made a choice. We're missing our big rebounder. We're not going to send anybody to the offensive glass. We're all going to run back down and play defense. Yeah. Well, against the highest scoring team in the country, that makes it just isolated. That makes sense, right?
Yeah. But and honestly, that is a NBA philosophy as well.
But when you get out rebounded,
prioritize.
When you get out rebounded 50 to 26, it's not going to work.
No, it's not.
And in that close of a game, what a fabulous game it was too. And now, having said that, that's against UCLA. Gonzaga. They're free throws. They're free. Make your free throws. You score 95 or 100. And I mean, so both teams had a negative in a great game. And had they been able to address their negative albatross, if you will, either could have won the game easily. And it was I thought it was a real interesting look at two great teams. This one couldn't rebound. This one couldn't hit free throws. And you ended up with a classic game.
Yeah, and I'll say this right now. They play anything close to that game again, and I can't see how they beat UConn with the way UConn's playing right now. Especially because you think that Sonogo's having one of the best tournaments for a big man in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And so when you look at him going up against Timmy and kind of neutralizing that, it turns the ball over 16 times against UCLA. And then you talk about the free throw problems. I mean, you have either of those issues, and if you don't have Timmy having a great game, I don't see how they match up with a UConn team that's absolutely steamrolling right now, looking towards the Elite Eight. That right now jumping out I mean, there could be some other permutations that really fascinate me. But right now, that's looking like, I mean, FAU and Kansas State, that's going to be a fun one. But right now, UConn Gonzaga, I mean, Bama and Creighton would be fun. San Diego State and Creighton would be fun, or Princeton, either one of those. Houston, Texas. I mean, the Texas matchup could be fun. I think UConn Gonzaga is going to be the most fascinating Elite Eight matchup already.
It sure sets up that way. As seen in this tournament, more than any other in recent years, and it seems like each year it gets more crazy. It gets more insane.
Yeah.
But in a year,
but in more mid-majors.
When brackets are completely busted, I know a lot of people get frustrated. Well, I know the Big Six conferences do when they're losing teams, and they shouldn't. But for fans and viewers and observers, it's fantastic. And I think the transfer portal and COVID years are the two key reasons these things are happening.
Yeah, I personally think with the way it's trending and what the transfer portal is allowing and creating, I think the bottom line is stop putting in the 16 from the Big Ten and start putting in, the second team from a couple of mid-majors. I think more mid-majors is better in the tournament. And I think, seeing some of these schools that have made these runs, obviously, when you have the small one, you have Princeton, you have FAU. Obviously, when you look at Gonzaga with the run they've had, I mean, that's all more fun. I mean,
it is.
That's better. And the mid-majors are making more runs, across the first weekend as well. And that's really where everyone shuts down. That's where America loses, God knows how much in production apparently, because we're all watching. I don't know why I say apparently because I don't have the exact number, but it's true. That first weekend's the moneymaker. And so that's where the fun is. Put in more mid-majors. That's undeniably my thought. Looking towards these games, I have strong opinions on two of these games, and that is
today's games.
Yes, tonight's game. I have strong opinions on two of these games, which is I think Creighton and Princeton is going to be fascinating because Creighton plays fast. Princeton slows it down, not like usual Princeton, but still they're not playing a very fast style. The big thing is that Mizzou, despite Princeton not being very big, Mizzou still got out rebounded like crazy. Creighton has a big man from Trinity High School in St. Louis. His name's Ryan Kalkbrenner. He's a 7-footer. We actually interviewed him earlier this week.
I heard the interview. It was terrific.
He's fantastic. And we asked him, he's like, we're winning the rebounding battle. And if they are able to at any point dictate this game towards a pace of a 60 points into the 60s, high 60s, if they can dictate that pace, and if Kalkbrenner can assert himself down low and win the boards game, Creighton's going to come away with this win. The problem is, if either of those two things don't happen, again, Princeton's not going to turn the ball over, and they have an annoying offense that, again, it's not the 100% Princeton style, but it's still they're gonna death by a million cuts.
Here's the thing, and cuts. The euphemism is with a knife, but cuts in basketball is a different thing. But you'll get 1,000 cuts, and they're kind of back to the way, true to that old Princeton offense style they are. And that's what's really going to, we're talking about Creighton's defense and Kalkbrenner and all that. They're going to be challenged by it. You can look at video. I know I've seen it, Rocc. You look at video, you try and replicate it in practice, but till you're out there on the floor with those guys, it's a different animal. So can you start to understand right away in the game, now I get it. And really adjust to that style and play defense? Or are you just going to be reeling the whole night and they're going to make you feel foolish and you go home?
Yeah, and obviously when you have a 30-point game from Kalkbrenner in game one and a 30-point game from Nembhard in game two, the big question is, are they both having a big night? Is one of them quiet and the other one stepping up? Or are they both having a quiet night? It's when you have a point guard center combo like that, the team's going to go as they go, and that's going to be fascinating. And for me, the other one's going to be Houston and Miami. Obviously, Houston trying to get back to Houston. That's such a fascinating story. They play very differently. Again, Houston slows the game down a little bit more. Miami has that four-guard style. What I want and why I wanted to bring this game up to you, Rammer, is because Jordan Miller is the X factor on that Miami squad. And you remember some troubles that Billikens had with him when he was back at George Mason. You know, watching seeing what he's doing now with that Miami team, and again, all those guards so talented, he creates such a problem.
Yeah, you know, while Miami and Houston are from legitimate conferences and have earned it and have had fantastic seasons, you know, the casual viewer may not be hip to these teams and their coaching and how good they are. It's going to be two fantastic coaches. These are coaches' games. And
I love Jim Larinaga so much.
Oh my gosh. And I think all these games are fascinating. All of them have, except Xavier, Texas, have big spreads. On my radio show, we said you had to be at least a 5.5 point difference to be considered an upset. If you're within 4 or 5 points, that's not an upset. That's a couple of free throws and a couple of buckets. You know, it's not, but 5.5, we set that as a number. We got Alabama by 7, Houston 7.5, and Creighton by 10. I bet you there's going to be a minimum of 1 and maybe 2 upsets tonight.
Yeah, and here's the big thing for me. And this is sorry about that. All these open tabs I have. I kind of hate doing this, but my brain just requires me to do this. Number ones get into the Final Four. Number one seeds get into the Final Four. It is almost always 1 or 2. And so considering we're already staring down a bracket without 2 of its number ones, that just kind of tells me that by the history of college basketball, the people who put together the committee is not a bunch of morons. And so therefore, just going off that, it tells me at the very least, one of the number ones is going to win tonight. And and for me, it's probably Alabama.
Alabama's going to win.
Coming early, Alabama versus San Diego State.
I agree.
But there's a very good chance that both of them win, just again by the hard numbers on bracket history. Again, but that's again, Houston lives off great defense, cleaning up the boards, and getting their own misses as well on the offensive end. Miami doesn't turn the ball over, so it's hard to play. It's hard to lock them down defensively. And despite playing small, it's a 4-out lineup, but one of their guards is 6'6", one of their guards, Miller, is 6'7", and they have a 6'7" big man. So they're not a big team, but they're not a small team, and they rebound really well. So Miami profiles as a team that takes away Houston's strength, but Houston has Sasser, who's one of the best players in the game. And any time that you can come into a game, especially once we get into the later rounds, that's when defense starts to matter more. And I think Virginia's style, Houston's style, will beat you 55-50 if we have to. I think that starts to work better later in the tournament, and now we're in that point with Houston where it could work for them.
Well, last night we saw some high-scoring games that were really, really fun. Not as likely tonight.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask one little thing in the NBA because it is getting interesting. Obviously, we have everything going on with Ja Morant. He played last night with the Grizzlies in his first game. But somebody, Jackson Burkett, who works with TMA, asked me a question when we were at the station the other day. And he said, I'm giving you $1,000. Who are you taking in the West to win a championship? And I really didn't have an answer because every time you look at the West standings, and there's a question mark on every single team. We don't know what the Suns look like with Kevin Durant. It's going to be good, but we don't know what it looks like. If you ask me, are the Nuggets better than the Suns? Well, I don't know. I don't know right now how the Nuggets are going to match up with them in a series. So the Kings are such a strong team right now, but that's probably not a real threat in the playoffs because of how young they are. They're lacking that star power we always talk about in the NBA that matters in the playoffs. And that's your top 3. And then from 4 through 10 in the West is separated by 2 games. The 4-seed Phoenix Suns have 38 wins. The 10-seed New Orleans Pelicans, tied with the 11-seed Oklahoma City Thunder, have 36 wins. I've never seen something like that before in my entire life, Rammer. And so, and then the problem is those teams that are almost have the exact same record as these teams that are objectively bad in the Los Angeles Lakers and the Pelicans are the Clippers and the Warriors and the Mavericks, who have great players. We just don't know what they are right now. And so I've gone from thinking the West was a 1 or 2 team race to now having no idea, because the Kevin Durant trade threw everything up in the air, and it's just kind of stayed up there because Kevin Durant got hurt and we haven't seen anything yet. And at the same time, while that's happened, the Warriors are winning away games. The Grizzlies got their entire chemistry turned upside down. And the Clippers look better with Russell Westbrook, which surprises the living hell out of me. So I have no idea what's going on in the West right now, which probably bodes really well for whoever comes out of the East.
So are you asking me a question?
No, it was really more of a thought experiment.
Okay.
Well, I guess my question would be this. My question would be this.
Well, no, let me respond then. You didn't have a question, so it's a conversation. Yes. We're supposed to be conversationalists. We fail frequently, but let's try again.
All right, there we go.
You can't, although the records count, they matter. Yes. But if you're trying to do a power ranking, you have to disregard them. Yeah. And we've talked about this. I'm sorry, people, I beat the drum on this. Rarely do teams play the regulars on the road. Yeah. So the records mean almost nothing. But you pointed out Golden State wins on the road. They're playing their guys more. I think they're a real legit. Plus, they've got the experience, and it's not an opinion or a philosophy. It's a fact. They know what it takes to win in the playoffs. Do the Nuggets? No. Does Memphis? No. None of the other teams can answer that. I do think, even though I said discount the records generally, as I try to watch some games that I can, look at box scores every day, I really feel like the Nuggets are really balanced. But when Memphis is healthy, that's a matchup. Can Westbrook and the Clippers' chemistry, can they elevate to that level?
Well, and now they lose.
I don't think Durant with Phoenix pulls them up. So I'm gonna break, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna break them into pods. Mm-hmm. I got Denver, Golden State, and Memphis, and then I've got the Clippers and Phoenix.
Okay.
It's between those that kind of climb up, and that's the way I see it. And if you ask me to bet, what was the question? Bet 1,000?
Yeah, bet 1,000 on 18. Who's going to come out of the West?
I want to say Nuggets, but it's foolish to discount experience, and you probably got to put it on Golden State.
It's a tough time to ask the question because, again, I just named all those variables, and there's a couple I even missed, which is Paul George is going to miss the rest of the regular season, which kind of takes away his ramp-up ability with the Clippers, which is a big deal on that roster because nominally I think the idea would be the last week of the season to start ramping up Kawhi and Paul George a little bit. They're not going to be able to do that. The Nuggets are on, not right now, they stabilized, but last week going into the early this week, the Nuggets put together one of their worst defensive stretches of 4 games, so bad that it flipped the MVP conversation in a week from it's 100% Jokic's third in a row to I'm pretty sure it's either going to be Embiid or Giannis. And Jokic is now in third. I don't know how it happened, but the Nuggets had 3 or 4 bad games, and Jokic had a couple very bad games in that stretch, and all of a sudden everything just kind of flipped. And in fairness, it made me ask some questions about the Nuggets defense, especially when you have, a very skinny 7-foot Slim Reaper just sitting there in Phoenix waiting to come out of some bubble wrap in the playoffs. So there's all these variables in the West that confuse an already muddled West. And again, I haven't even mentioned the things like the Dallas Mavericks, which I've never believed in and I still don't. The Los Angeles Lakers are going to get LeBron James back for the last week of the season, it appears, according to Adrian Wojnarowski and some other reports. So they're going to be in a play-in scenario. Does a healthy LeBron trying to drag his team through the playoffs, is that a factor in a first round against an uneven team that's not 100% right now? Like I guess the Clippers probably too low. I'm thinking about a matchup. I mean, could they could LeBron James just going absolutely atomic for an entire series grab the Grizzlies, who are still kind of uneven with the John Morant stuff in the first round? Not completely unheard of, especially if Anthony Davis is actually playing, making Jaren Jackson Jr. actually have to, step up and guard one of the most dominant players when he tries. So, I mean, even those little variables, which I think are so much less likely, are still not completely unheard of. And so it throws every single question mark up across the West.
Let me give you another small variable that could have a big impact. I know most NBA fans don't give much credit to Steven Adams. Adams, his 15, 18 minutes a game, what's his deal? But he takes up 15, 18 minutes in particular matchup scenarios that are very important to the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
Is he in the top 10 bigs in the league? No. But for them, he plays a very important role. So we talk about these little variables on these different teams. How are those questions going to be answered? And they're going to be critical in the end.
Yeah, actually, at least up until around February, the Grizzlies actually had really good defensive numbers when they went two bigs. Obviously the conventional wisdom now in the NBA.
That's right.
Because Jaren Jackson Jr. can cover so much ground, and because Steven Adams it knows the system so well, they actually had a pretty good defensive rating for going big when you'd think with a plotting center that wouldn't work very well. And part of that's, credit to Taylor Jenkins and using it in the right time against the matchups. But
exactly.
The bottom line is the West is completely in flux. And that's why it's fun, because all of this can be completely different. We could watch 3 or 4 games. And again, like I said, that's what changed the NBA MVP discussion 60 games into the season. It's insane that it happened, but it appeared that it had. So we have 4 or 5 more games, and next week we could be talking about a very different complexion in the West. Also a very different standing system in the West. Like I said, while the wins don't mean anything, the matchups in the first round get decided by those things. And so we still have to point them out. So, Rammer, thank you so much for joining me today. That's all we're going to get to on the two-man game. Enjoy the rest of the Sweet 16. Enjoy what looks like it's going to be a fascinating Elite Eight. We'll be back next week to talk some more NBA and definitely the Final Four. Rammer, before we get out of here, please tell everybody about our wonderful friends at Royal Banks of Missouri.
Royal Banks of Missouri, you may not know, has been in business for over 60 years, starting out predominantly in St. Louis proper, but expanding to St. Charles County, to the east side in Granite and Jacksonville, and all the way up into Northeast Missouri in 3 branches. All feel like your hometown bank, because Royal Bank says better service means better banking.
And also, Rammer, of course, I do want to say some congratulations. I saw a post from good friend Jeff Fernetti about all the new things going down at the Lake of the Ozarks. So congratulations again to everyone going down there and everything going on at the ballparks.
Hold that thought.
Wait a second. Oh, we got swag. Is it a map or is it swag? Which one is it going to be? Oh, it's going to be a hard hat. It's a hard hat. Yes.
Construction will be beginning shortly at Ballparks National as we expand with 3 high school size fields that include soccer, lacrosse, and youth football. And I'll be wearing this.
Well, you have to wear it now on all the podcasts. Rammer has to be in a hard hat in all his podcasts.
Let's go to work.
Put it in the contract. Rammer, thank you so much for joining the show today. You have a great rest of your day.
See you, buddy.
See you later, St. Louis.
As one of St. Louis's fastest growing companies and largest private companies, St. Louis Acura is proud to serve you and remains committed to becoming better than ever for you. As new Acuras become more available every day, we are not backing down from selling 100% more quality pre-owned vehicles than ever before. We want customers that appreciate our friendly, outgoing team and our award-winning service, because at St. Louis Acura, we are better than ever for you.